welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the program, we have Naked Raygun. You may not have heard about them, but they are a band that's been around for a long, long time, and they've had influence on a number of other bands, including one of my favorite musicians. Okay, I wasn't planning on doing this, but here it is. Mr. Dave Grohl. Yes. One of my favorite musicians, Dave Grohl. It's falling off the wall. This is the way to start the program, right? Okay. Well, maybe it's not going back on. Okay, don't touch it. Don't touch it. It's going back. It's back on the wall for now. Dave Grohl actually went to his first concert, and it was Naked Raygun many, many years ago. Naked Raygun is responsible for a lot of feelings that Dave Grohl had in terms of live performance, what he wants to do, punk rock music, and the live show, right? So they really inspired him, and he's made that clear in a number of different forums, including in his most recent book, The Storyteller. They've been a band that I've been interested to talk to for a while, and I actually know their manager, so was able to set it up when they released their most recent album. Their first album in 31 years, and that is called Overlords. It came out recently, and definitely recommend checking it out. But I had a chance to talk to Jeff and Bill from Naked Raygun, and we had a really great chat earlier today. So before we get into that, I'm going to share a story, okay, about what's going on in my world. If you follow the program, you'll know that I'm into duck hunting, and smack dab in the middle of duck hunting season right now. So I was out this past Wednesday duck hunting, and I got a call. Didn't answer it. I was hunting, and I figured it was my kid's doctor just reminding that they had an appointment to get the vaccine that day. A couple minutes later, I checked my visual voicemail on my phone and noticed that it was the secretary from my son's school calling, and she was mentioning that my dog was there, my dog Basil, who I think is right behind me. No, he took off. He takes off when I am doing the program. So he was there. And so I was freaking out a little bit. I'm like, my house has a gate around it. The property I live on has another gate around it that gate doesn't open unless a car is driving on, and it only stays open for 60 seconds. We've lived here for better part of 8 years now, and he's never even left my house area, let alone the property, but he took off. And he went to my son's school, which is an interesting touch. And so I call back. I talked to the secretary at my son's school, and I'm not nearby, right? And I'm even farther because I'd have to gather my stuff and hike a mile back to my car, drive out. It would take me forever to get back to get my dog. And she's like, well, I can't sit here and watch him, and I already called animal control. They're on their way, because I can't just sit here. But I think she had some familiarity with me, so it was interesting. And so I'm like freaking out a bit and trying to focus on shooting ducks, and I dropped my phone in the marsh, which is 3 feet of marsh water ultimately, and so my phone's wet. I have to reach in and grab my phone from the marsh, and then I'm pulling it out, and I'm getting a call back from her, and in the meantime, I had called my neighbor twice. He didn't answer. He was apparently in LA, trying to see if he could pick up my dog. Okay, so I called my mom, who's across town. I'm like, I need you to get your car, go get Basil, please help me out here. I didn't want the animal control to take him. I didn't him end up at the pound and have to deal with any of that. I'm sure I could have paid to get him back, but I was really worried, right? And so my mom was getting in her car, and I think she got in her car, and then at first, and then I hung up, and then that was when I dropped the phone in the marsh, and I got the call back, and I couldn't even answer it. I couldn't swipe to answer it because it was wet for a little bit, but I was able to answer. Animal control had shown up. I'm like, okay, can you wait for 10 minutes? Just wait like 10 minutes, please. My mom's on her way. She'll be there in just a few minutes. Okay, they're good. They say they'll wait with the dog. Call my mom back, and I keep her on the phone until she gets there to get the dog. And she shows up and gets the dog and takes him to my house, and is like, very clear that I owe her one. I owe her one, of course. And no, her birthday's coming up in 2 weeks. And just keep that in mind, right? By the way, I still haven't gotten her a birthday gift yet. Don't tell her. I should absolutely work on that. If you have any suggestions, tweet me at Concert Pipeline. But yeah, so that's kind of where things are at. So the dog gets back, I get home and everything, and he's fine. But over the next couple of days, I'm realizing like this dog is anxious. He's worried. Like I left on Sunday to go to my dad's house to watch the 49ers game. They lost, by the way, to the Seahawks. They took the ball 96 yards at the end of the game, but couldn't get it the last 3 into the end zone. And as I was leaving, like he was shaking and his teeth are chattering and he was scraping to try and get out of the yard. And I'm like, what is going on? And I, chalk it up to him just being old. And it turns out that's not it. That's not all that's going on there. I mean, that might be part of it, but and my dad gave me some anxiety medicine for dogs that he's used for his dog, so I can try that out with him next time he has one of those incidents. But first off, I figured out the first day how he got out of my yard, because I was pretty sure that I had closed the gate. I don't always, but I was pretty sure I had. But my kid's mom and my daughter had dropped off my kid's bunny that I get the joy of having partial custody over. They dropped off the rabbit before dropping my kids off at school, and left the gate open. So that's how I got out of there. But I don't know how he got off the main property unless another truck had, driven off and he took off after it or something along those lines. Again, he'd never done that. So this is all really peculiar behavior. What I realized last night was the why he took off. No, he didn't talk to me. He didn't really tell me on so many words, but I realized it when I was outside and realized that my neighbor's house, which is currently vacant, the smoke detector was going off, the beep every 45 seconds or minute or so. And I thought I heard it the other day. I thought I heard a smoke detector. And so I put my dog Basil outside and I went inside to try and listen for it and didn't hear it because he's really sensitive to the sounds. He hates it, right? So it doesn't last long. He freaks out. And it was my neighbor's house that it was happening to. So I text the owner, and luckily he came out today and changed the batteries on the smoke detector, so it doesn't continue to happen. And Basil's been cool ever since, but really worrisome for me in terms of will he be okay, and what's actually going on. I didn't realize what was actually happening, and then it's been happening for better part of a week now, 5 days, I guess. Almost 6 days. Today's day 6. That's been happening. So nuts. But Basil is okay. So that's the good news. Okay. So this band is like I said, Naked Raygun. I try not to overly geek out in terms of how influential they were in terms of Dave Grohl. If you've ever tuned into an episode of this program, you'll know that at the end of the program, we always end with a Dave Grohl music news story, with very few exceptions throughout the year, because there's always something fucking awesome that he's doing. and I got a great one for you this week. So stay tuned to the end of the program. But it was great to talk to a band that was, part of his history. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's bring in Jeff and Bill from Naked Raygun. You're there. Thank you for taking the time, Jeff and Bill. I appreciate it. There we go.
Okay.
Okay. Naked Raygun in the house. I want to thank you for taking the time first off, but also, it's a big time for Naked Raygun, because it's not a short period of time since the last Naked Raygun album. It's been about 31 years. So how does it feel for you guys to have a new album out? I know it's been a long time in the coming, and long time that you guys have worked on it as well.
Feels great to have it out. We had all these songs for a long time, and some of them for a long time, some of them for a short time. But it's great that we could play with Pierre one last time and have him on the record too. So that's really great.
Yeah. How about for you, Bill?
It's really weird hearing 31 years, because it just doesn't seem that long. I mean, this record, we worked on it over probably a period of 5 years, in and out of the studio very sporadically. And we had been doing singles before that, and they all kind of blend into like one long studio session. Yeah, it's exciting to finally get it out. And, we have our next album scheduled for 2053.
That sounds about right. Right on track. We're setting a regular cadence now, right? So
yeah, well, that was the whole plan, was to meet back at the studio in 31 years. So, that worked out perfectly. So
I love the intentionality behind it. I'll say that, because, it really drives a purpose, and it leaves them wanting more, while also setting an expectation of, this is when you're going to get more, right? So.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, we really took that leave them wanting more thing to heart.
Yeah.
I know why record companies put in there, you have to release a record every year,
It's too much. It's just too much of a good thing is what's going on there. And, the older albums, you can appreciate them more when there's not, 15 albums right behind it. That's on its tail. So, so tell me, let's start kind of from the beginning. I'm interested in, for you both, what got you into music and punk rock music in particular?
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I was always a big music fan, from when I was a little kid in the, growing up in the 70s and driving around with my mom and, some shitty Buick or something like that. Oh, I'm sorry. Can we swear?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. I encourage it. Yeah.
Where was it? Oh yeah, just like AM pop radio, watching American Bandstand, watching Soul Train, stuff like that. So music has always been very important to me and a big part of my life. And then when I got older into like middle school, I discovered all the like British invasion bands, Beatles, obviously, Stones, Kinks, Who, the Small Faces, bands like Creation, those great mod bands, and that really spoke to me in a time when you were listening to Styx and Journey and whatever else was coming out of the radio. And when I first heard punk, which was the Ramones and the Clash, to me it sounded like just a continuation of all that 50s music and British invasion stuff and girl groups, and so I was hooked, and it was probably the worst career move I ever made in my life, but I'm still here, so hey.
It's good. And how about for you, Jeff? I mean,
music has always been in my family. My mom played banjo in a hillbilly band. They dressed up like hillbillies and put like blackjack on their teeth, and at times it was pretty cool. But they actually almost made it on the Johnny Carson show once. But my dad played banjo and guitar, and he used to sing Weaver songs around the house and stuff. And they had a decent record collection. They had Barbra Streisand and the Weavers, of course, and bands like Bob Dylan and stuff. And so I get to listen to that growing up. And then music's always been super important to me. I couldn't imagine even dealing with people on a day-to-day basis that didn't have like a big music background or didn't appreciate music the way I do. I can't imagine having a friend who doesn't like music. You know, it wouldn't be a bunch of common with them. As shallow as that may sound, I really feel that way. But I got into music. I was always in choruses in high school and in grade school, and I just developed from there. And I was in a band. I played the baritone horn and marched around the field and stuff. And I always had music in my life, so it's always been very important to me.
Yeah.
And
And so,
I figured around like 6th grade, I realized that like if you wanted to talk to girls, being in a band and playing an instrument was like a fast track to get there.
yeah.
It's all a lie, but
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that at all. That didn't dawn on me at all. I didn't realize that much later on.
It took you a little longer, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Jeff, with your parents being musicians themselves, were they touring musicians at all? Did you follow them on the road? I mean, it sounds like your mom getting pretty close to Johnny Carson probably was.
Yeah, they almost toured. They broke up, but they almost got there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I should mention that my mom was a drummer.
Cool.
Okay.
Traditional Korean folk drumming.
Yeah.
Which is like they got crazy drums like hanging off of chains and beating them with like big sticks and like that. And then she'd do these fan dances. And my family actually did kind of tour.
Okay.
When I was like maybe 4 or 5. My dad played the music on a reel-to-reel tape, and my mom would get out on the stage and do her thing, and then whack on her drums. And I was the opening act. I'd go out and sing some Korean folk song. I don't speak Korean, so I had no idea what I was singing about.
Sweet, I never knew that about you.
Singing phonetically. And then I would go into the crowd. It was usually old ladies, like old lady society kind of things, Rotary clubs or, that kind of crap. Then I go into the audience and, beg for quarters.
Nice. And so where was that, Bill? Where did you tour? Where did you grow up?
I grew up around Chicago. We did, I wouldn't even call them shows.
Sure.
I mean, and this happened probably as many times as I could count on both hands. So more like Midwest. I remember we went to Toronto once, and we went to upstate New York once and stayed in some big mansion that was owned by some rich person or something like that. We were in no way like traveling vagabonds or anything like that. It's not that romantic.
Sure. Yeah, but you got out of it. So and you learned a little bit of the ropes from your parents. It sounds like so.
Stage presence at least.
Sure, and I was introduced to gaffer's tape at a very young age, so
Very versed with it. So, so Jeff,
my chords on stage and stuff like that. Trip on them.
Yeah. And so Jeff, was Naked Raygun your first band when you formed it in 1980, or did you have other bands beforehand?
No, I've been in a band since I was like 15. I was in a bunch of bands that never got out of the basement. I was in one band that never played any songs except for Rolling Stones songs. I was in another band that never played any songs except for James Gang songs, which was really rough. But I was always in bands. I think we got out of the basement one time, and then the band right before Naked Raygun, we played a couple of suburb big clubs twice, and then we broke up. But then I joined Naked Raygun.
Yeah. So,
hey Jeff, you're kind of cutting out a little bit. Yeah. Can you get are you in your mic?
Yeah.
The microphone or?
No, I'm not. I'm on this computer.
Oh, is your mic nearby? You're also kind of
mic.
Freezy a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit choppy. Yeah.
Our internet sucks out here lately. I can switch mics. Let me see.
Okay.
Jeff lives way, way, way out in the country.
Oh yeah, yeah, pretty far. That's pretty. I'm sure that's pretty nice.
Well, he's closer to Iowa than Chicago. Put it that way. So.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Well,
But I'm sorry, what was the question?
I don't remember exactly where we were, but I can ask I can ask you one go while Jeff's checking his mic. That's cool. So
Yeah, sure.
yeah. So in the 70s for you, I mean, you were really into soul music. What was that a family influence that kind of got you there, or was it something you found on your own?
Oh God, no, that was all Don Cornelius's doing.
Okay.
That was like Soul Train, AM radio. I mean, I still listen to this day. Duran Jones and the Indications. You ever hear them?
No.
Oh, fantastic! Just like a phenomenal. So I mean, it's retro, but it's a really fresh take on 70s soul. Went to my first live show in like 2 years. Saw them. Had a great time. Silk Sonic. I'm really excited about that Silk Sonic.
Yeah.
You know, the Bruno Mars and
yeah.
Anderson Paak or Pack or whatever. I don't know how to pronounce the last name.
Okay. Yeah. And so was that kind of what inspired you to become a musician, like that sort of music, wanting to play live?
Not soul music. I probably, would blame Led Zeppelin more than, Jimmy Page.
So,
I made my grandparents take me to see Song Remains the Same. I think I was like in 5th grade.
Okay.
When it was in the movie theater, and just seeing like a 20-foot tall Jimmy Page, just like, rock god. I was like, oh wow, that's cool. I'm gonna be that guy.
Yeah.
And it turns out I was. So.
And you turned into it, right? So yeah.
You should see my dragon bell-bottom silk pants. And
oh, I'm sure they got all the ladies, right? So
well, I think Robert Plant and the zucchini stuff down his pants probably got most of the they were all like 13 back then, right?
Right, yeah.
It was a different time.
It was a different time. So you joined Naked Raygun in '89. Tell me about how you got kind of into the band.
I right after high school, I joined this band called Product 19, and we were like a really thrashing hardcore band. Like every song started out with drum clicks. So it was like that. We opened for Naked Raygun, I think, a couple times, and kind of got to know Jeff. Jeff was quite the scenester back then. It was like,
yeah.
Put it this way. My band Product 19 and Material Issue, we both played our first shows together. And I think we played our third shows together at this bar in the city, which we didn't know was 21 and over at the time. And of course, all our friends are 17 and 18. So everyone comes down to the show, says, no, you can't come in. And the only people in the audience were Jeff and his wife. And they stayed and watched both bands, Material Issue and my band.
So you played a show for Jeff, unknowing that it would just be Jeff, and then and that kind of spawned things off in the direction. When there was a need, he brought you into the band.
Yeah, and then I moved to I went to school in DC at George Washington, so I spent most of the mid to late '80s away from Chicago. And then when John Haggerty quit in '89, I think it was, I had just finished up school, and I got a call from Karen, who was Jeff's wife and the manager, which is a really bad situation. And he'll cop to that too. I don't know where he went. And they said, yeah, we have a short East Coast tour coming up in a couple weeks. Can you do it? I said, yeah, I'll drive home. And, we practiced for a couple weeks, and I was back in DC like 2 weeks later, cleaning out my apartment after the show.
Yeah. How was that?
I'm sorry?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
And then just continuing the tour with the rest of my all my crap from my apartment in the band.
Yeah. How was that first tour for you? What do you remember of it?
The first show was awful. It's nerve wracking. Like my
Yeah.
knees, I got like shaky knees when we started playing. And then about halfway through, it's just like, hey, this is great. I love it. I can play the songs. Band sounds great. Crowd loves it. Yeah, it was just a total blast.
Yeah. I heard somewhere, and I don't know if this was before you joined or after or what have you, but that that you guys would play at like certain shows at all four corners of the venue. Like, is that? Am I pulling that from somewhere weird?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe Jeff will have more context to what I'm referencing, but that like that you guys wouldn't be all in the same spot necessarily on stage, but that sometimes you'd be at all four corners of the venue.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. That sounds way too difficult for us.
It does sound pretty difficult. I don't know
we're just not that bright
how.
to pull that off logistically.
Yeah. I don't know if it was I don't know what spawned it, so it's something I'd want to ask more about if Jeff was here. But I'm sure his internet's probably. It seemed pretty glitchy, so we'll see if he's rebooting it. But
he'll get back.
Yeah, it's cool. Okay, so let's talk about Pierre just for a moment and his kind of how that kind of came to a sad ending here toward the end. But he had an impact on this album, Farewell to Arms. He was able to play for it, and he was, from what I've heard, is like pretty persistent. Didn't get slowed down by everything that was going on, how he was affected. But tell me what that experience was like, and your memories of Pierre.
Well, Pierre had a stroke in, I think, 2012. And he was never really able to recover enough from that to play bass fully again. So we had a couple replacement guys, and we actually waited. It was almost 2 years for Pierre to rehabilitate, and it just like never happened. So we started doing shows again with sort of just fill-in guys, and then we got Fritz DeReza, who I had been in a band with through the last half of the 90s. To come in and be the bass player. And Pierre had gotten enough dexterity back where he could play a baritone guitar. So I took a 335 copy and just turned it into a 4-string baritone guitar. And so he could play that on stage with us. And it was pretty cool. And he was actually pretty good on it. He'd get like really like nasty sounding feedback. He was more doing accents and just making noise as opposed to actually playing, right along with the song so much.
Yeah.
And I've never heard a tape of the show, but that time we played Wrigley Field, our sound guy, Bob Weston, who you may know of from Shellac and other stuff, not to drop names, but like, this is a guy who knows what he's talking about. Yeah. And he's like, man, that baritone guitar was badass, which is, I was really happy about that, not only Pierre could, be on stage with us to experience that, but also like really contribute. And then he got cancer. So that kind of put the kibosh on the playing live stuff, and that took a number of years to sort of play itself out. But the whole time he was dealing with cancer and the treatments and all that, he was right there in the studio with us making this last record. And I've said it before in other interviews, he put more time in the studio, just hours wise, than anyone else in this band did, by far. he was at every session. And you know, I wasn't at every session, I can tell you that.
Yeah. What did you make of that commitment? Like, I mean, just that he was so committed despite having cancer and being, you know, this thing that's eating him literally, right, from the inside. Like, I mean, what did you make of that?
Well, I mean, you know, if you had cancer, you'd want to go out and do something fun too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he wrote songs for the album. He was able to play on one song. So he's on the record, and he really took to really caring about certain nuances of the record, maybe more so than anyone else would, because you know he was just spending so much time with it. Him and Steve Gillis, the guy who recorded it and produced us, you know, it was just them two in the console room, just, you know, throwing out ideas and stuff like that. So he was a very integral part of the whole process of the album, and he heard it, finished, sequenced, mastered. He didn't make it to see it come out, but he knew it was done, and he told me, you know, I trust you guys, you'll do the right thing. And so I think he made his peace with the, you know, the album being done and out of our hands. So
yeah, he pretty much proved everything we ran by him, including the cover and the name of it and everything. He really liked it, so we're glad he got to be part of it. You know, it was really great.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your experience working with Pierre, Jeff? Like, what was a fond memory you had of Pierre?
Probably the pocket sandwich. He invented the pocket sandwich, you know.
Yeah.
Pierre just produced a sandwich out of his pocket at any moment in time. Started eating it, but no, seriously, Pierre was such a genius. His last couple of songs, he interpreted the bill. I didn't understand what the hell he was talking about at all. Somehow Bill communicated with him really well. I didn't understand what was going on until Bill showed me what he meant, but he came up with a couple of brilliant songs there at the end, and I'm glad Bill could finagle him into what he was talking about. It sounded really good, really good songs.
I think one of Pierre's great talents as a songwriter was just naturally thinking outside of the box, just doing screwy stuff that like you think like, oh, this is going to be awful, you know, or like I wouldn't have done that. It's like, what are you talking about, you know? And then you play the song a few more times and you're like, oh, I get it. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fucking brilliant, you know?
Yeah.
So Pierre could take some really off the wall and weird ideas and turn them into a really great pop song.
For sure. Now, Bill, you mentioned Wrigley Field, so that kind of is a good segue. Like, well, first off, for both of you, what was that experience like, being able to play such a massive place, like opening for the Foo Fighters at Wrigley?
There were a lot of people. We lost Jeff again.
Oh no.
I mean, you know, it was cool. I mean, you know, it was a place I've been going to since I was a little kid. You know, my dad bringing us to the Cubs games. I hadn't been there since the last day of my senior year of high school when we ditched school and went to a Cubs game. And then to be back, you know, 30 whatever years later, and I'm playing in the on this giant stage in the outfield. It was pretty surreal, you know.
Yeah.
And just hanging out backstage with Cheap Trick, and that was cool.
That's pretty neat. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was just a great experience, and I think probably one of the funnest, most surreal moments for me anyways was just doing sound check and hearing my guitar blasting in an empty Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
You know, was just like, I was like, oh, how fucking cool is this, man? And like, I sound fucking massive, and you can hear me all the way at the Gingerman Tavern, 3 blocks away, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah. How about for you, Jeff? Experience playing Wrigley Field?
It was really big. I wear glasses, so everything's a bit foggy after like 20 feet. So it's all pretty much the same to me. I just want to make sure I didn't fall down or anything. And it's a big stage, it's a big, huge stage. Not just an enormous thing, and it's pretty cool to be out there. Big crowd too.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So
yeah, and I mean the whole day was a blast. And Dave Grohl is such a nice guy that he rented out the second floor party room of the Cubby Bear Lounge, which is the bar across the street. Just so Naked Raygun and all the Naked Raygun family could have like sort of an after party up there. And he came up and said hi. And it was great.
The weirdest thing about Wrigley Field is it's really old. It's a really old ballpark, and it's exactly like it was in the old days. They have these ways of getting the pitcher to the mound that is so weird. Like from the bullpen to the mound in a secret way. It's really fucked up, funky. It's like I walked on this one quarter that went all over the place. Remember Bill? It went all over the place. And then finally got down on the field somewhere, like from the bullpen. It was like closer than the bullpen was. And there's nothing to do. It was really weird. Nothing to do is really weird. When I had to get from the dugout to the locker room, they put the team in this like in this enclosure, this weird like curtain thing. They kind of wheel them around. It's very strange. And so when Dave Grohl had to get from the stage to the stage to backstage, they were in that same thing. It was very weird. They went by me, It was really weird.
Secret entrance, huh?
I saw Prince playing around once. Prince playing around. He had this thing that was a big case that just fit underneath barely fit underneath the stage. It was made to fit perfectly there, and you could tell he was in there. They had like breather holes and stuff. It was really weird.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Bill?
Oh, Wrigley is so old. It's sort of like backstage at Wrigley is like being kind of like in a albeit very clean, like old abandoned factory,
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. And so we're talking about Dave Grohl, right? I mean, he wrote in his new memoir, The Storyteller, referencing you guys and the impact that you had on him. Obviously, you were his first concert, and that left quite an impression for him. So he's not the only one. Obviously, there are other major bands that you've influenced. I know Matt Skiba's, said great things about you guys. Like, knowing that you've had that impact, like what does that feel like for you guys to kind of have that experience and impact on people like Dave Grohl?
Well, I think Ian Curtis said it best. When people listen to you, don't you know means a lot. And it's just very humbling and touching, and we really appreciate it. And we think that anybody who gets the idea of punk rock music from seeing us is cool by us.
Yeah.
And it's just nice being sort of part of the chain, the continuation. I mean, we all had the people that influenced us. And on occasion we've been able to meet them and fawn over them and tell them how awesome and great they are, and they very humbly say, oh gee, thanks. And then people do that to us and we say, oh gee, thanks. And those people that were influenced by us, they'll influence other people, and they can say, oh gee, thanks to some kid 10 years on down the line, and you just keep it going, and it's nice to be part of that.
Part of the chain is good time. Good call, Bill. Good thinking.
So there was like a 15-16 year period where Naked Raygun was, took it, we'll call it a long break. Kind of like
Oh, no. We were writing songs for this record.
You were working on this record the whole time.
No, we worked on it for 31 years, man.
Yeah.
It was never, there was no downtime.
There was no break in the studio every day, working on the record, right?
Well, we did put out 3 singles with B-sides that were really good, and we did put out a live record from 1997, show at Metro, and we got back together in 97, we called Free Shit. And then we did put out Last of the Mohicans. I did it in a small label out east. It was 5 live songs, 5 studio songs, and 5 practice songs. Pretty good record. Got around pretty good. But
yeah, so even during the layoff, there'd be a show every once in a while, or every now and then some weird, live or compilation record would come out. And Pierre and myself and Jeff had all been in bands through pretty much all of the 90s. So it's not like we were inactive. We had stuff going on. So it was weird. It was very hard getting back together in 2007 after not playing for probably 10 years. And I don't think Eric had touched a drumstick in those 10 years.
You did kick off.
Yeah. So that was a bit of work, but it wasn't as weird as you would think.
Yeah. And Eric was the one who reformed you guys he was persistent about it for Riot Fest, right? Like, I mean, did it take some? Yeah.
Eric basically committed to the show.
Yeah. Before
he talked to any of us. And then so he sort of had to work backwards and get the band on board for the show that he had booked, our big reunion show.
Did he do that with Jake Burns too? He told Jake Burns we want to play with him when we didn't have a show with him guys too.
Yeah. Eric's excitable and can sometimes get ahead of himself. Yeah.
I was going to say, did it make it easier to say yes that he had already said yes to the show, and or was there a piece of you that was like, I don't know if now's the time for that?
Well, I think when we heard what we were going to be paid, we all got a little more open-minded.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, and it with Eric already committing us to the show, it changed from no, we'll never get back together again over my dead body to, well, I don't know, maybe, and then to, yeah, sure, what the hell, let's do it, why not?
Yeah, started with one show, and then after that it just felt more natural, so you kept it going from there, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, we actually got really good by the time we did a practice show a few weeks before the actual Riot Fest show, and the night before Riot Fest we did a secret show at this club in Chicago. And those 2 shows were great, and then we got to our big moment, in front of 4,000 screaming fans, and Jeff's voice goes out because he's sick and he's stranded from the show the night before. And Riot Fest was new. They, let's say, hired some people who maybe were not the most experienced. So there were like monitor problems throughout the show. We're cutting songs during the set because Jeff's like, I can't sing that, man. There's no way I can sing that. And it was not the triumphant moment I think we were all hoping for. So we're like, let's not go out like that. Let's just keep on doing shows. What the hell?
Not the triumphant return we all hope for.
Yeah. Jeff, you said something in an interview I read before the election. you're starting to get a little political with this album. Just, I mean, the first kind of traces of politics in your music, from what I understand, right? You said Donald Trump, I can't see him being president, although weirder things have happened. Now, have weirder things happened at this point, or is that pretty much the weirdest thing you've
It's
seen?
pretty freaking weird that's being president. I think it's very strange. A guy from private sector, no political experience, just pays his way into the presidency. It's crazy. I couldn't read people around here at all. I didn't think people were that pissed off at regular politics to get someone brand new, unexperienced in the White House. But I guess I, I also picked punk rock to be famous, and it was a bad move too.
Which I mean, I kind of get I could see how someone would find someone like Trump appealing, but I mean, a know-nothing game show host, really? I mean, that's like the best you could pull out of your ass to shake up the system.
At least Ronald Reagan was governor for a while, right?
Yeah. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger was California's governor. I mean, people like familiarity, I think, is a good way to put it, and they were familiar with Trump, and so they're like, okay, sure, we'll go with that, right? I mean, to what you're saying, Jeff, he wasn't a politician. We're tired of politicians. Okay, well, did they get what they wanted?
I mean, fucking Schwarzenegger was like Winston Churchill compared to Trump. I know.
I just saying I didn't read it correctly. I didn't read the public correctly. I'm out in public every day, and I couldn't tell that was happening. Really weird.
Yeah. It was. I think it was a shock to a lot of people that it actually happened. But
well, I think it was a shock to everyone how when they found out exactly how racist this country is. Still.
That, yes, and after having an African-American president too, like, you'd think that we would have progressed at some point,
You would think, but I think that just exacerbated the whole situation. That's like people are like, oh, holy shit, a black guy can be the president. That ain't right.
Yeah.
So and that got us to where we are now, I guess.
Just for the record, Barack Obama kicked out more Mexicans than Trump ever did.
I'm not getting into that.
Yeah, we don't need to touch that. That's fine.
Come on, ask me about what kind of picks I like to use. Something like,
Ooh, Bill, what type of picks do you like to use? Do tell.
Wow. I don't know. Jim Dunlop 88 millimeter nylons.
Oh, you heard it here first on Concert Pipeline. So
yeah, and you can really hear the difference.
It's an exclusive.
80's too stiff for me. I use a one-beer pick.
Yeah. Jeff, you put out a couple of you put out a solo EP and a second on the way, right? Like, tell me about that process for you that's different than Naked Raygun.
He's so happy you asked him that question. He can't stop smiling.
He's speechless. Oh, Bill. Okay, Bill, tell me about Jeff's solo album that he put out, and what was the process like?
Well, Jeff did it, and then he told us about it. And then, okay, Jeff is back.
Robot Jeff, that is.
I knew he. Oh, here he is.
I think we got you.
Jeff, turn your audio on.
Yeah, you're muted.
Audio. Turn on your mic.
It's like, where's the button? It's there.
There you go. How's that?
We got you.
There you go.
What was the question?
Question was about your solo album and the process putting that together that was different for you than Naked Raygun.
Yeah, solo record. Some songs I'd written a long time ago, mostly, and I re-recorded some of them and put it together as a 5-song EP. Put it under my own name and released it very inconspicuously on Bandcamp and a little website set up through TuneCore and Bandwagon, is it? Something like that. And it sold pretty decently. It sold about 800 copies maybe. But I wish you got out there a little more. I didn't know how to do advertisement for it. I didn't know how to connect with social media very well. I kind of just send it to my friends on Facebook, and I think it's really good music though. It turned out pretty good. There's not
So,
really hard.
what the hell? Why aren't those Naked Raygun songs, Jeff? Why did you save them for yourself?
Well, they're
Come
not
on,
really.
share with everyone else.
I think they're songs. One of them's an instrumental, and the other two are really wimpy. I don't think they make any songs at all, Bill.
Well, yeah, the instrumental. You wouldn't even have to do anything on it.
Yeah.
You have a sandwich, you know.
That's true. You take a break, yeah, good idea.
You don't like long songs though, right, Jeff? So or solos or anything. So that doesn't have a place in Naked Raygun.
No, we never like solos. We have to play a nice riff or something in there. What do you think, Bill?
About solos and Naked Raygun.
Yeah.
We don't really have solos. We just have parts, you know. I mean, it's not like we're doing 10-minute improvisational explorations of, discordant scales or anything like that. Or, it's just we play pop songs, and try and make them short and fast. And there's a little musical interlude, it's gonna play off the melody or some other aspect of the song.
Try to make those parts the same every time we play them too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I play the solos differently all the time, but it's always the same part,
Yeah. And Jeff, something that was really interesting to me. You have your wife has a raccoon rehab. Is that still existent? 27 raccoons in your house? Is that a thing?
Usually,
Yeah, but that had nothing to do with the raccoon rehab.
No, they're just staying. They're just.
Well, he doesn't have a roof, they just climb around.
they just filter on in,
No, we have 3 possums now. Is all we have now during the winter. We tried to cut it down in the winter because springtime is such a hectic time when all the babies fall out of trees and stuff. But now we're just down to 3 possums, 3 baby possums, and we're expecting a big deluge in the spring though because 2 major rehabbers around here stopped doing it. So Chris is going to be swamped. I don't know how she's going to handle it all. You get up to about 50 raccoons in the house at the same time. It gets pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I have 2 kids in my house at times, and it gets pretty crazy here with that. So I can't imagine, 27, 50 raccoons in a house for sure. So,
well, she has really nice cages.
But what's nice and super cute is in the past when they've gotten a new batch of like little baby raccoons, they can't be left alone. So if we're practicing or in the studio, they come along for the trip, and then we get to play with baby raccoons before and after we're done doing whatever we're doing.
That's true.
Wow. Well, that's a pretty incredible. Well, that's a good deed.
So all you other bands with your groupies and cocaine and ketamine and fentanyl and all that, we have baby raccoons. So suck it.
Yeah, exactly. What more do you want? What more do you want than to be playing music to baby raccoons, right? So
And
it's all about tiny woodland creatures.
A little bit to be fed every 2.5 hours, so Kristen doesn't get much sleep.
Yeah, I imagine not. Yeah, it's like having a newborn in the house year round, right? So
yeah, it is.
Endlessly.
A newborn who at age in 2 months will rip up your house to shreds.
Yeah, I don't want that. Any live shows planned for you guys? What does that look like? I know it's probably pretty hard to get together to make that happen.
We would like to get the singles out there in another format because they were so poorly released before. Get them all together in one lump and maybe put some other songs with it. I think that's about all we got planned so far.
And I think live we're still at a TBD.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The whole COVID thing going on, it's tough to play live and run it right, running a lot of people there. So
it's not the easiest thing to get us all together in one room to do anything. much less twice a week for, 4 or 5 hours to play songs that are 50 years old,
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, I want to thank you both for taking the time. Like I said, I was pretty excited to do this interview. I'm a pretty big Dave Grohl fan, actually, so that's how I kind of came about your music, and reading The Storyteller. But I've heard him talk about you guys a number of times before. Yeah, we actually end all of our shows, we do music news and, on the tail end that we put in later, and always end with like a Dave Grohl story, because he's always doing something fucking badass and amazing and marches to the beat of his own drum, and is, just a great person, really, overall. So,
yeah, good for him. It couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Oh, absolutely. And he's actually playing I'm in Napa, California myself, and he's playing in Sacramento tonight, the Foo Fighters. So, but I didn't go to that show. Obviously, I've decided to talk to you guys. So,
Oh, sorry.
No apologies. I choose
you may
guys.
still be able to make it.
I could probably make it, but I don't know. Like, since COVID happened, I'll just tell you, like, it's harder to get out to shows. Like, I used to go to one a week, and now it's like, it's a thing, right?
Even have you been to indoor shows since?
I was at one this past weekend. Actually, the musician we had on the show last week, Mark, what was his name? Mark Broussard. And so I saw him. I've been to a couple of indoor shows, I think 2 or 3 this year. And in San Francisco, it's vaccine required, not even negative COVID tests or anything. You have to be vaccinated.
Yeah, Chicago, you have to show your card. I've been to 3 indoor shows, like recently. The first one I went to, I'd say masks were like half and half.
Yeah.
The second one, everyone kept their mask on. It was really, really weird.
Yeah, it's weird, but it's also impressive at the same time, right?
It's impressive, but it really detracts from the experience. I'm not gonna tell you it's the same seeing a band with a mask on and everyone else wearing a mask. And I'm not an anti-masker at all or anything like that. I'm down with like everyone should wear their masks, and I wear one at work and it's not a problem. But rock and roll show and surgical mask is just, they don't mix.
Yeah.
How can you tell if they're singing along?
Exactly. And I've heard from, like comedians too. It's it's really tough for them because they need that energy back and forth, right? Obviously at a rock show you need the energy, but for comedians, like, you got to be able to see the reactions, I think, of your your audience, and it's really tough. So I want to get out to shows, but I haven't been to as many as I used to, and I do prefer outdoor shows, obviously, for it's just easier. It makes things easier,
Yeah.
See, I like the small sweaty club.
I don't think it's tough to get a good sound outside. It's tough to get a good mix outside, I think. You have to do a hell of a PA system,
Yeah.
Of course, I was the guy who said he was never going to go to a show again once they banned indoor smoking. So
you're like, never again, huh? Yeah.
Maybe in a couple of years, I won't want to go to a show without a mask on.
Ah, there you go. You'll be so for the mask and everything that you're like, this is just the norm. This is everything. And
I'll feel naked without it.
Exactly. And people refer to it, compare it to the seatbelt, right? There didn't used to be seatbelts, and now you can't imagine driving without it, right?
So, there you go. And I'll just be panicking when people are looking at my face.
Used to be smoking.
Don't look.
Don't look. Turn away.
Turn away.
Used to be smoking sections on planes too. Smoking sections on planes.
Yeah.
Basically, it was crazy.
What I liked when there was smoking on planes was like the guy who was one row ahead of the smoking section, but he was a smoker. So he would just like lean into the aisle and sort of hold his cigarette into the smoking section,
Oh wow, everybody just quit smoking, right? So yeah, yeah, awesome. Well, Bill, Jeff, thank you for taking the time. Dig the new album also, and hopefully get to see you tour at some point and play a show out here on the West Coast. That would be really awesome. But
Yeah, we'd
um,
love to, and you're on the guest list forever. How about
ooh,
that?
I like it. I'm quoting you on that, so I will be there. So
Okay.
Right.
very cool. You guys have a
Yeah,
great
thanks a
evening.
lot.
Okay,
Thanks a lot for having us.
Thanks.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
That was the interview with Jeff and Bill from Naked Raygun. Again, they have a new album out right now called Over the Overlords and Concert Pipeline exclusive. The next one will be in the 2050s, their next album. They're already hard at work on it, obviously. So really excited to check that one out when it comes out. Okay, so that takes us to the final segment on the program, the music news. Okay, I have a couple stories about what's going on in the world of music. First up is a story about Drake. Now this is interesting because this is something I've never heard a musician do before. So I'm interested to dig into this a little bit. He withdrew his two 2022 Grammy nominations for Best Rap Album and Best Rap Performance after consultation with his management. The motivation remains unclear as to why he actually did that, but he was nominated for Best Rap Album for Certified Lover Boy and Best Rap Performance for his song Way Too Sexy featuring Future and Young Thug after consultation with his management. And so this is the latest chapter in his long, contentious relationship with the award show, billed as the biggest night in music, and its governing institution, the Recording Academy. In 2018, Drake refused to submit his album More Life for consideration out of frustration that his chart-dominating single Hotline Bling won for Best Rap Song in 2017, despite not featuring rap. Maybe because I've rapped in the past or because I'm Black, I can't figure out why, he told the Beats One radio show at the time, adding that he believed the award was the result of racial profiling. I feel almost like alienated, or you're trying to purposely alienate me by making me win rap awards, or either just pacify me by handing me something, putting me in that category, because it's the only place you can figure out where to put me, he said. The Recording Academy's oversight of Black artists and pigeonholing into urban categories has for years drawn complaints and frustration from some of the biggest stars in music, such as the Canadian singer The Weeknd, who in 2020 tweeted the Grammys remain corrupt after he received no nominations for his album After Hours or for his chart-topping 2019 single Blinding Lights. Okay, so this is, it comes down to him feeling pigeonholed ultimately in terms of how how he's pulling out and how he decided to just skip the Grammys. It's a really bold move, and I gotta really respect when an artist does this sort of thing. And it reminds me of when Kevin Hart turned down the Academy Awards after they tried to get him to apologize for something he'd done like 20 years before, which had just come out in the limelight, something he'd said when he was much younger. And it's like, this is being able to step away from the biggest opportunity in the world takes a lot of guts, and I really respect it. Right, because there's no higher award than the Grammy for music, and to realize that it's not everything, though. It doesn't define you, that your fans are what make the music important, that sort of thing, is really awesome. So hats off to you, Drake. Okay, so next story up is about the Rolling Stones. They played a secret London jazz club gig in celebration of Charlie Watts. Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, and Ronnie Wood played rhythm and blues classics in celebration of their late drummer. Really intimate show that they played. And they brought in former bassist Bill Wyman who they were all in attendance at Ronnie Scott's in Soho, along with a number of Watts family and friends. Jules Holland compered the evening and led a house band featuring Dave Green, who was Watts' childhood friend and a frequent collaborator in his jazz band, Ben Waters and Axel Zwingerberger. Members of the Rolling Stones touring band also performed. But big group came out to celebrate. The evening ended with an impromptu jam session by Watts bandmates Jagger, Wood, and Richards performing the rhythm and blues standards "Shame, Shame, Shame" and "Down the Road a Piece." Longtime Stones drummer Watts died at the age of 80 in August, prompting a huge outpouring of tributes from the music world and beyond. It's just really affected everything. And this band that's been around forever, right? Paid great tribute for him. So Steve Jordan, who initially stepped in so that Watts could recover from surgery, is now the Rolling Stones' permanent touring drummer. Yeah, pretty cool. All right. So next story is about a big rock show that happened. Was actually pretty intimate as well, I believe. There were members of Tool, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Foo Fighters, Queens of the Stone Age, and more. They teamed up for an all-star jam. The folks that were part of this were Taylor Hawkins, the Foo Fighters drummer, Queens of the Stone Age, Josh Homme, and Troy Van Leeuwen, Tool's Danny Carey, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Chad Smith, Jane's Addiction's Chris Chaney, and producer Andrew Watt. They all appeared on stage together. They rotated frontman duties and played with two drummers, Chad Smith and Taylor Hawkins, obviously. The group performed covers of classic rock hits like Rod Stewart's Hot Legs, Werewolves of London, as well as material from their respective bands. All of the musicians took the stage together for a joint cover of the Clash's "Should I Stay or Should I Go," and they had a good time. So really, really cool. So speaking of the Foo Fighters, as we've done many times throughout this program, and by the way, I'll just point out, the Foo Fighters are playing just over an hour from me in Sacramento. They go on stage in 20 minutes from when this is being taped. So I'm kind of bummed I'm not at that show, but really stoked about that I got to see them earlier this year at Bottle Rock here in Napa. That takes us to our final story, which is about Dave Grohl, and also has to do with Dave Grohl's Bottle Rock performance in a sense. Dave Grohl and Greg Kurstin cover Kiss on the final night of Hanukkah. So last year, Dave Grohl and Greg Kurstin put out a series of videos on YouTube that they called the Hanukkah Sessions, one song for every night, paying tribute to a Jewish artist who mostly in the rock category, and they covered a song every night. Just put it up on YouTube. In May, they played their first ever live performance of all of these songs, all 8 of them from last year, at Bottle Rock in Napa. And I was there at the front to record it, and you can check it out on Concert Pipeline's YouTube page at Concert Pipeline, youtube.com/Concert Pipeline, whatever. And so this year, Dave Grohl and Greg Kurstin put out 8 more songs, more produced this time, for 8 artists that are Jewish to celebrate Hanukkah. So seems like something they might be doing every year. And subsequently, my videos received a lot of hits, and we got a lot of new subscribers on our YouTube page because of it. We actually hit exactly 1,000 subscribers today, which was pretty cool. And our 1,000th subscriber is Eduardo Brits. So thank you, Eduardo, for being our 1,000th subscriber. And thank you to all the other couple hundred subscribers that we received over the past week of Hanukkah and just beyond, who are checking out the Hanukkah Sessions videos. Really appreciate you tuning in, and hope you continue to enjoy the program. So last night of Hanukkah, they concluded the Hanukkah sessions by covering Kiss's Rock and Roll All Night. And he said, ladies and gentlemen, we made it, night 8. And what better way to celebrate another year of Hanukkah sessions than Chamwitz and Stanley Eisen, 2 young lads from Queens that set the world and thousands of stages on fire as Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley of Kiss. Greg and I would like to thank all the people that helped ramp up the Hanukkah sessions this year. It's going to be tough to beat, but we will. Oh, we will. We hope that this year's batch has brought a little joy to you, as it surely did to us. Now let's rock all and roll all night and party every day until next Hanukkah. L'shem. So they took on the Clash's Train in Vain. They covered Billy Joel's Big Shot. They started out the first night by Lisa Loeb's Stay, I Miss You, which was an epic video, by the way. Dave Grohl dresses Lisa Loeb, and then it gets metal and back to Lisa Loeb, and what an incredible performance. Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones, Copacabana by Barry Manilow, Jump by Van Halen, and their duo Enlisted Girl's Daughter Violet for their version of Amy Winehouse's Take the Box. So, of course, Dave Grohl has had quite the busy year, releasing documentaries, going on tour, publishing his first memoir, and Foo Fighters released their 10th studio album, Medicine at Midnight, a Bee Gees cover album. And earlier next year, the band will release a horror comedy around the events leading up to Medicine at Midnight. So a lot to look forward to with the Foo Fighters, and a lot to be proud of for them as well. So that is our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. Let me give you a little taste of who we got coming up in the coming weeks as we wind out 2021 here on Concert Pipeline. We have Lizzie and the Makers coming up. Also, Steve Martz Torm, who is the son of, oh geez, I'm blanking on his name for a second. He's the son of Mel Torm, excuse me, who co-wrote the Christmas song, aka Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire for Nat King Cole 76 years ago. He's the son, and he has a new single, a Christmas single out. He's going to play it for the program, I believe. Josh Radin is going to be on the program probably toward the beginning of next year. Lots of great stuff coming up, and so continue to tune in. And so for all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. We'll catch you next time.